In college algebra, we started chapter 2, functions and graphs, and this is just some basics about domain and range. So, first off, don't forget any coordinate is made up of x and y. All right? And the domain is the x and the range is the y. So on number 1, when we want to write out what the domain is, I usually just write a capital D, start a curly bracket, and I list all the x values. So I see a 5, 10, 15, 20, and 25. Even if it doesn't end up being a function, you still work it that way. For range, write a capital R, a curly bracket, and list all the y values. So I see a 12.8, 16.2, 18.9, 20.7, and 21.8. And let's go ahead and dive into the question, is it a function? And I would say yes, it is. Because all x values are unique or different or are never repeated, something along those lines. So we have a 5, 10, 15, 20, and 25. You'll see an example of where an x is repeated, but all x values can only be used one time. And there's a definition of it right there, but textbook definitions are sometimes difficult to interpret. On number 2, we need to answer the question if it's a function. So I do see a repeat of 6, but those are y's. These 6's are y's, are y values. Let's say it like that. No effect on it being a function or not. So that's a side note. You don't have to write that. The answer is yes. No x values are repeated. You could graph it. I'll show you the graphing option on number 3. But I think graphing it's a little over the top. Just look at all the x values. I see a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 4. They're all unique. Yes, it is a function. On part B, different answer. I see a 6 and a 6 in the x position. So these are x values. That are repeated. No, not a function. All right, let's move on to harder level stuff. On number 3, we have to same question, determine if it's a function, but now we have an equation. We don't have a list of coordinates. So you have 2 choices. You can check by graphing or algebraically. Algebraically is a little bit confusing. Set equal to y. If more than one answer then not a function. This confuses some people. I'll show you what I mean in a minute, but graphing, you want to graph it, then do the vertical line test. That is the simplest way to approach it. If a vertical line crosses more than once, then not a function. I'm going to have to erase this, but that is the vertical line test. All right? I bet you've seen it before. For example, let's look at some vertical line tests. If I have a graph that looks like this, does it pass the vertical line test? And you draw a vertical line anywhere you want through that graph, and it only crosses it once. Yes, a function. What about a graph that looks like this? This one fails the vertical line test because it crosses the graph twice. No, not a function. So one thing that's kind of nice about understanding algebraic functions is when you look at a problem like 3a, I hope you already know what it looks like. Y is raised to the first power, x is raised to the second power. That means we have a parabola. And I bet you can already determine if it's a function. So let me make some space here, and we will solve it algebraically. And first one, you move x squared to the other side because we got to solve for y. And here's our function, or our equation, I should say. We don't know if it's a function yet. This counts as one answer. And sometimes it's hard to see that when there's one answer, but when there's more than one answer, it's very obvious. For example, on B, when you subtract x squared, we still need to get rid of the y, the squared by the y, because y isn't completely all by itself yet. And when you square root both sides, we have two answers for y. This means that for any one x, there are two results. That means x is being used twice. So this is a no. This is two answers. Not a function. This is one answer. Yes, it's a function. Now I'm going to write a little bit more, but I want to show you the easier way. What if we were to just graph this thing on the calculator? So jump to the calculator. I hit B for graph. If you're already set equal to y, you can type it in. Negative x squared plus 4. And there's our graph. Looks like this, and it passes the vertical line test. What if we didn't set it equal to y, and we try and type it as I typed it? You press menu, graph entry relation. Then you can type it exactly like I typed it. X squared plus y equals 4. And you have the exact same graph. Look at part B. Here, let's clear this. It's not set equal to y. You could. It's a headache to do when you're graphing it on the calculator. So let's change it to menu graph entry relation. And I can type in x squared plus y squared equals 4. And it is a circle. All right, let's go back to the document. So 3A passes the vertical line test. Yes, it is a function. Please show me a reason, though. Show me a graph or the algebra. All right. On part B, I have a circle, and it fails the vertical line test. No, it is not a function. And once again, give me a reason. It's got to have a graph next to it or some algebra. All right? I will see y'all later. Bye.